Please join me in welcoming Maria Bækkelie and Laura Maria Kull to the stage. So, Maria currently serves as the Community and Event Manager at Effective Altruism Norway. A recent project of hers is the website meningsfylt.no, which aims to give career advice to a wider audience. Previously, she's been a co-founder and managing director at Effektivt, a job board curator and designer at 80,000 hours, and she also has design experience from both the public and private sector. And then she holds a master's in industrial design and engineering from the Norwegian University of Science and Technology. Laura Maria Kull is a board member and the introductory fellowship coordinator of EA Estonia. She is also a community builder on a local level in Norway, as well as an event organizer, currently as the Baltics lead for the EAGxNordics 2025. Outside of the EA world, she's been working in the public sector on both a local and a European level. All right, let's give a warm welcome to Maria and Laura.
Okay. I just need to fix this again. Okay, awesome. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming to this session about doing good from the Nordic and Baltic regions. So the story of this session was that when we began planning this conference, I was a bit like, we should have someone talking about how to do good from our region. And then someone were like, well, maybe you can do it. And I was like, well, I don't know if I'm the best person to do it. But I figured out maybe we need something, right? So I made a workshop, of course. That's what I do. I'm a service designer. And Laura was there, and she wanted to help out. So here we are. And why did you want to hold this talk?
Yeah, so I'm from Estonia, but I live in Norway, so I've been thinking a lot about this region in general. And I think what I've noticed, and I think a lot of you have noticed, is that the EA movement is very centered around, especially like US and UK hubs, or then talking about working in Asia or Africa. And while it's definitely, those are really good options to do with high impact, and we don't want to discourage anyone from doing that, we believe there's also a case to be made for high impact roles and actions in our own region as well. Whether you just don't want to leave or you just want to help out in another way. And the Nordic Baltic region is special in the world context in many ways. And it's something that I think we can take advantage of to do more good. So that's awesome. We're here.
Yeah. So what I kind of wanted to make when I started thinking about this was like, okay, there's some cause areas, we have these, maybe we have more that we care about. Then we have some different approaches to doing good, like earning to give, communicating ideas, research, government and policy, building organizations. If you read 80,000 hours, you already know this. And then, of course, the Nordic and Baltic region, what are we? We're like 8 different countries. But I knew from that's kind of what I want to do. Like I want to go into all of these combinations and see what's there, and then tell you about what's the most promising ones. Unfortunately, that's 280 different options, and I didn't have time to do that. So we're not going to do that, but we're going to go a little bit into some approaches, and then a shallow dive into some different cause areas. And then I wanted to show you where I am, because I don't know everything. So I mostly do communicating ideas and building organizations about effective altruism currently, mostly in Norway, but also a little bit in Sweden. And Laura, what do you do?
Yeah, so I'm a board member in Estonia, like mentioned before, but I also do local events in Norway on a local level. And kind of similar to Maria, mainly in the building effective altruism course area, but I'm also looking into more the policy and the institutional decision-making part. So we're kind of in some way similar context or like similar background. So this is also this talk is kind of from our perspective, what we know.
Yeah. So if you feel that there's something lacking and there's some blind spots we have, that's probably true. So what is our goal then with this talk? It's to gather what we already know from doing good in the Nordic and Baltic region, and then to inspire you to go out and do more specific research into how you can make a difference from our region. And then like background methods. So we have built this, as I already said, on a workshop we did with community builders from our region to kind of gather all the perspectives and all the ideas we kind of already have. Then 2 years ago, there was a talk here about the Nordics maybe becoming world leaders in existential risk reduction. That's also a really good talk. You can watch it on YouTube later if you want to. And then there's been a lot of discussion about policy efforts in smaller countries like our own. For example, with this forum post. So that's mostly what we're going to draw upon. And then, as Magnhild said, we're very happy for you to contribute with either your questions or your opinions, so we can kind of broaden the conversation further. And maybe this can be an annual tradition, building our knowledge about how to do good in the Nordics year for year. Okay, so the Nordic Baltic context, what's so special about our region? One thing that's very special about the Nordic countries is that we're the happiest in the world. That's great, right? Woo! We continuously rank at the top, all the Nordic countries do. And I think that means that we have a surplus. We have something to give because we have a pretty good life. Then the Baltic countries are a little bit down on the list, but the gap is definitely narrowing between our two parts of the region. We've been pretty stable here in the Nordics, and the Baltic countries are rapidly climbing. So when we look at the economy and the lifespan of our region, you see the Nordic countries are like really high up in the corner, and compared to this is Europe, compared to other Norwegian European countries, we're kind of up there. Well, the Baltics are more in the middle of Europe. But if you look at these numbers from the world's perspective, you can see that we're very much all up there when it comes to lifespan and economies. And the Baltic countries have had the highest economic growth in the last 20 years in Europe. You can also see we're tiny countries. The size of the bubbles here is the population size. So there's so much more, but that's something about our region that makes it quite special.
Yeah, so I want to focus a bit on the approaches then we can use for our advantage. And what can we do with this? What could we focus on? So for one, because we're small, that can be seen as an advantage. So we are a good testing ground for innovation. It's easy to test out new ideas, and because of less bureaucracy, decisions take less time and change can be done quite fast. This is connected to also lower cost of experimentation. If you want to try out the new policy system, it's a lot cheaper to do it in a smaller country than in a larger one. And we've also seen this in this region. For example, Finland has tried out like universal basic income on a smaller scale. Estonia was the first country to introduce online voting. Iceland has a good alcohol and drug prevention for youth program. And there's a general startup culture in parts of the region as well. And this is connected with the highly digitalized infrastructure, makes this a great place to do easy and cheap innovation and good data collection. And so kind of, as I mentioned, you can kind of pilot different frameworks or organizations here, and then if they work, you can scale them up and use them as a good example on a global level. And it also, a benefit of being small is that there's kind of less pressure on like solving all the most, the biggest, most media attention gathering issues, like solving all the world wars, because no one expects the small countries to deal with that. Maybe a bit with Norway, with the peace talk, but generally that gives us the advantage of also focusing maybe on some issues that are more neglected, so some fields, without really facing too much backlash. And another advantage is that our region has very low political corruption. So this graph from our world in data, we see our entire region, and you can see compared to Europe and world, we're doing great. So this is something we can really use for advantage as well. And while Latvia and Lithuania, for example, have been a bit more fluctuating, they're still clearly below even the average in Europe for political corruption. And it also shows something important, this graph, that I want to bring attention to, and it's the fast change of situation in the Baltics. So this is important because, as I mentioned, I grew up in Estonia and then moved to Norway. And for me, it was very interesting to see this different mindset that people have. So in Norway, people are very aware of their privilege, and they try to really use this in the best way they can to help others. Whereas in Estonia, often people are more criticizing, which is not really bad to criticize, but we often criticize things that are actually not bad. We're often on the same level with the Nordics, or sometimes it's an even better situation in Estonia than in other countries, but we just fail to see that. And I think this is something that is important to a mindset that needs to change in the Baltics. And I think big reason why that is happening as well is because most of us are like born in like this area of the graph here, or even before this graph started, while the situation today is like here. So things have changed fast, and I think it's very important to, if we want to make change, to kind of take that new perspective to it. Yes, and this context brings us to the government and policy field. Thanks again to the small size and the fair systems, there's small social distances between people, meaning that decision makers are way more accessible than in larger countries. Like in Estonia, usually if you need someone to get contact with someone, you know someone who knows that person, or you know someone who knows someone who knows someone, but that's usually the end of the line. So it's a lot easier to do things and promote policy changes. There's also policy diffusion in the region. The Nordics often take over policies from neighboring countries. The same happens in the Baltics. And since we have often similar goals, we can work together also on an international level to have impact. And this also brings me to the larger influence that we have. So this is not for Norway and Iceland, of course, but those of us who are in the EU. We have a larger influence per capita than bigger countries. And that can, in some cases, be really advantageous. Then there's also communicating ideas, which is, for example, through journalism, media, or another way. We are all the region is in top 18 countries according to the World Press Freedom Index. And I think that's something we also should use, because that means we can more easily publish our ideas, also more controversial takes. And because of the smallness of the countries, there's also, you can reach a larger percentage of the population just because there's less media outlets. And it can also be a stepping stone for international communications going into, for example, again, like EU journalism. So the general advantages is there's this innovation environment. It's easy to access policy making and policy makers, easier to be heard. And especially if you're from one of these countries, it's a lot easier for you to make an impactful change than for someone coming from the outside, because of the being part of already the community. And say you have a choice, for example, to moving to, let's say, like US and working in an established high-impact organization, you'll probably have very high impact, and even if there is higher competition for the position. But there's also an option, for example, if you are staying in this region for whatever reason, and you initiate some new policy change or start a new organization trying to do high impact, you might also have high impact, although the scale will be likely a lot smaller. But will there be someone doing it if you don't? And is there a person with just as much potential waiting to do this if you don't? So, and I think this is something that is something to really consider when we're talking about regional possibilities. Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah, we're going to talk about some cause areas. This is going to be a little bit quick so we can get to some of your questions. Yeah, in global health and development, I think there's like two places you want to be if you want to do something about this. It's the local context where they need better health systems and better development. And then, of course, it's the place where they have the resources to help. And we're the second one. Relatively to our economies, Norway, Sweden, and Denmark are like top up there to give development assistance. But also all countries in this region does something to help with development efforts other places in the world. But yeah, we're not like, it seems kind of tiny compared to the US and Germany and United Kingdom and stuff, but like who knows what will happen in the US these days. And also there's like, yeah, what we already talked about. When there's like more per capita, you're more likely to be able to influence where the money is spent. Yeah, so if you want to work in global health and development, I would, especially in Norway, Sweden, and Denmark, I would advise you to look into if there's a way you can make sure the resources spent by the government is going to effective causes. Also, second thing, we already heard that the Effektivt in Norway has raised more than 100 million kroner since 2016. And there are similar fundraising done in Sweden, Denmark, and Estonia at the moment. But if you're from another country in the region, maybe you could be the one who's setting that up to help do fundraising through for like just people or institutions that are not what the government does. Okay. Animal welfare. There are farmed animal welfare organizations in all the countries in the region. So if you want to go into that, that's somewhere to start. The Danish Vegetarian Association is recommended by the animal charity evaluator, so that might be a good opportunity for you to join. Other animal welfare organizations in the region has also been recommended by them before, previous years, or have had funding from EA sources to do more EA-aligned stuff. Yeah, here again, promoting policy change might be the way to go, either for animal welfare laws or plant-based subsidies, either on a national level or an EU level. And then in developing alternative proteins, you could support or found startups. And we already know, like, especially in like Sweden and Estonia, there's like a big good startup cultures. AI safety and policy. We know that our region won't play a role in the development of AI. That's just happening elsewhere. But we can still do something with working with policy and regulations. And here again, EU is kind of the key. We have something called the Brussels effect, which means that companies usually make one product that complies to all regulations, and the EU's are often the strictest. So that could be a way to go. Okay, going further, nuclear risk and geopolitics. So there we have no nuclear weapon. That's probably good. Or I don't know, but depending on how you see it. But we have a closeness to Russia, which means that I think like people living in our region have an awareness of these issues. We like peace very much, and we're part of NATO, which will be definitely be a part of the solution to figuring out the nuclear risk situation, and in general having a stable world, which is great. Then going into pandemic preparedness, this is also a case where we can go into policy in our country. We could develop or implement best practices in our region and then spread it across the world. And if you're interested in that, you can join the Nordic Biosecurity group. Just Google it or find someone here that's part of that. Okay, then improving institutional decision making. So Laura has already said a lot of this in the policy world, but we have high trust and low corruption, and we're good at digital innovation. I think there's a case for, pilot, evaluate new ways of making decisions in institutions, and then be really good at that, and then go out and maybe doing it other places in the world. But being like a testing ground you already know this, as we said it many times. Okay, and then building effective altruism. That's kind of, I would guess, like some of you here this weekend are interested in that as well. And there are communities of effective altruists in all the Nordic Baltic countries. So there's definitely a way to join that. Especially in Sweden and Norway, there's like robust national organizations that have had full-time employees for many years. And Denmark and Estonia and Finland also have had paid organizers previously. And a special opportunity if you're from Finland, Finland is looking for a new paid organizer. So that's an opportunity that will come out very soon. And if you want to start a local group or help out a national group, there's absolutely an opportunity to do that. And you can use this weekend to get hold of someone. So if you're from Norway, please reach out to me. If you're from Estonia, please reach out to Laura, or the other people you can find in the Swapcard app. And then I don't think we have time to hear what you think or your questions. What do you say, Magnhild?
There is office hours, starting right now.
Yeah.
So how about the people who want to join that and ask questions and discuss more about this? Just follow us now, and then we can discuss this.
Yeah, and we're really looking forward to having if you have any ideas or discussions or counterpoints, this is supposed to be the start of this conversation. We are not the experts. We just wanted to kind of start this conversation. So please feel very welcome to join.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.